Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second day of the Permit Launch Week. I'm super happy to be here today. I have tons of guests with me that are going to talk and share some really cool features that we are going to announce in Permit today. We're going to talk, as we mentioned in the announcement, we are going to talk about precise decisions. All the features that we are announcing today will help you get better decisions in your applications everywhere. And I'm emphasizing this everywhere because we'll get to that soon. But beforehand, let me introduce you to our guest today. So I'm Gabriel. I'm leading the developer relations at Permit. You saw me here yesterday, probably. And with me, Ben Greenberg, a good friend and a developer advocate at Couchbase. And if you see him here, you probably know that we have something today that's related to Couchbase. So soon we'll get to Ben also. And with me also Omer, who is going to demonstrate a really cool feature around the way that you are getting decisions with Open Policy Agent. I think that if there are any Open Policy Agent enthusiastic in the audience, you are going to get really disruptive feature that's going to be announced today. And with me also behind the scene, will join later, is Asaf, our CTO, that's also going to share with us one really cool feature. Before we are starting, let me do the short Raffle announcement. So we are going, of course, you're here because you want to get the Raffle on the keyboard. But if you want to get that, you need to join on the Luma. So we are going to the Luma, the platform where you can register to the event. Shaked will share again the link. So if you just watching us on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, that's not enough. You need to register on Luma, and we will do the raffle of the people who join in Luma. After the raffle, we'll ask you to comment. No matter where you watch, we can see the comments. So after the raffle, we'll ask you to comment that you are here, so we know you are here, and we hope you all to win the raffle. With that said, let's talk about precise decisions. So probably, as you might know, one of the basic things that Permit allows you is to get decisions about authorization, what a user or what a service can or cannot do. The traditional way we're getting decisions in Permit, so if you are thinking about, and the way that most of our SDKs work, we have here, let me share the screen. So in this example, no, this is a very weird window that I share. Luckily, only this one. Okay, so usually you have your own backend service, and you have this permit check function that you write in your backend service that looks like this. If you are a permit user, you're probably really aware of this user action resource function. And this is something that you implement in your backend service. And you have the PDP, the policy decision point, that is actually get this request, right? So you send the request to the PDP with the user action resource, and it returns you one of two responses. The first one can be true or false, which is the traditional, but we have also now more functions. If you're familiar with Permit, we have also, for example, the get user permission function that can return you, for example, all the IDs of a user, what they are allowed or not allowed to do. But when you are developing a real application, you probably have some more places that you actually want to get decision. So for example, every application or every kind of application has something called database, right? The place where we are storing all our data. And sometimes we want to enforce the permissions in the database level. Today, we are going to announce two exciting ways to enforce permissions on the database level. And for that, I want to start with a concept called partial evaluation. I'll do it in short sentence, and then I'll let Asaf to demonstrate the partial evaluation code. Partial evaluation means that when you are calling the database, you probably have query. The query is selecting things from the DB, or maybe the query is writing things to the DB. Now the policy decision point in Permit has an early access feature that can take that query, filter it, and give you the partial evaluated query that you can actually run in your applications. This partial evaluation can actually open a new landscape of how you can enforce permissions with Permit. For example, sometimes you want to enforce permissions in the application because there is the multiple data sources there, but sometimes you really want to enforce it in the database level, and this is what the partial evaluation can let you achieve. So Asaf, if you can take the stage and show us the partial evaluation.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
We do.
Yeah, great. So let's talk about partial evaluation. So first, I'll repeat what Gabriel said about what partial evaluation is. So at the very basic level, partial evaluation is taking the policy that Permit creates and compiles into OPA Rego code. Okay, so that's how Permit enforces behind the scenes. So we have, oh, sorry, I'm not sure if I'm sharing my screen. Let's do this. Yeah.
We'll be happy to see you.
Yeah. So basically, Permit is creating this policy behind the scenes. So we take this kind of UI, okay, that helps you create roles and permissions and assign them to users in the directory, right? And you can assign roles and all of that. Behind the scenes, we translate the code into the language of OPA, which is called Rego. Hopefully there are some OPA fans in the crowd here. And that runs in your PDP locally in order to enforce permissions efficiently with low latency and high availability. Now, the cool thing is that with partial evaluation, we can turn this Rego code into SQL queries. So what happens behind the scenes, very briefly, is that your SDK can call OPA behind the scenes, run partial evaluation, and return something that we call a Boolean expression. Okay, so let me show you quickly. We have this admin role, right? And we have this user, which has two roles, basically admin and another role here in two tenants. Now, the PDP has a new API. We're launching it this week called filter resources. So I can say, okay, I want this user, I want to know all the resources that he can access of type task, all the tasks that he can access. So instead of basically having to hard code this into the OPA policy, what is created is what we call a Boolean expression. So once I run it, I'm getting a translation of what OPA would return. So OPA, if we look at how the role looks, basically this is how the OPA language looks behind the scenes, right? There are Rego terms and expressions and references and all of that. And that's what OPA can return. And we can translate it into a conditional here that says either the resource is in this tenant or is in this tenant, right? If the task belongs to one of these two tenants, then it's something that you can access. Now, we want to basically translate it into a SQL query. So this query right here. Okay, so what we want to get basically is this, right? Let's say I have a database and I have two tables. I have the task table and I have the tenant table, right? And I want to create this SQL query. So what I'm going to do here is basically, I'm going to show you very quickly the way that it works. We have this residual expression here that is returned, and this is a generic format that you can write plugins.
Can you please make the text a little larger for people?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Let's do this, right? And this as well. Great. So
thank you.
Can you? Okay, great. So basically, the idea is that this return format from the permit PDP is a generic format, right? That we created that can be translated to any like raw SQL or any ORM that you have. So if you have, I don't know, SQL Alchemy in Python or TinyORM, or there's plenty, right? You can simply write plugins that translate this format into your ORM format. So I'm going to show you how to do it with SQL Alchemy. So I have this example script here, how to run it. So let's say this is my models in the ORM, right? I have a tenant model and I have a task model, and each model is a table in the database, the lowercase tenant and lowercase task tables. right? And interestingly, there's a foreign key from the task table to the tenant table, right? So that's how it looks. And now I have a new SDK function that is called permit.filterResources. And this function simply envelopes the PDP API call. It's the same thing, right? So we give it a user, an action, and a type of resource, right? So it's just the resource type, which is task. I can have 1 million tasks in my database, and I will only get the filter, basically the SQL query that you run that will get you the exact result. So if it's just 2 tasks in the database out of 1 million, that would be the result of the SQL query that we're gonna generate. So once I get this off the filter, I have this plugin here, and this plugin is basically translating my residual policy into an SQL query, right? And this query here, this query object, is something you can run in SQL Alchemy. Basically do session execute query all, and you get the results. So let's go back and see what's happening here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell Permit what table I'm querying, right? I'm querying the tasks table because I want all the tasks that match the authorization filter, right? So I'm filtering by authorization rules. And then I'm gonna map references. Okay, so the idea is that inside OPA, we represent our resources and users the way they're represented in permit. So we have users, we have resources, and each has attributes. So basically you can see in the residual that the resource has a tenant attribute, and this attribute must be this value for it to work, or this value. So there's an or between these two, right? So this is the expression. Now I'm gonna map this attribute that represents the resource tenant into a column in my database. Okay, once I do, I can also declare how this basically how this column is related because I'm filtering on the task table. I have to teach Permit what is the format of my database. Okay, so what I'm declaring here is I have 2 tables and they are joined by this rule. Okay, I basically declare how to join them. And now I'm gonna build the query. Now, what I'm gonna get back is a query that I can execute and I can compile right here and get this string. So I'm gonna show you very quickly how it works. So I'm gonna run this function.
If you
And
can
basically
also
what
here,
I'm,
please, Asaf, make the
oh,
text larger. I think that's the most interesting part. Asaf is
yeah,
going to show us how you pass one query and get a different query, which by the filter, which is amazing.
yeah. So, and this runs in real time. So I'm gonna, I don't know, I'm gonna change things up and say, okay, where can I delete tasks, right? So, and you can see I have nothing, right? So if I run this, actually I hard coded it into the script. So let's do very quick, basically right here. I'm gonna edit this and I'm gonna run this again. Yeah. And I'm gonna import what I need here. And I'm gonna run this async function. And now I'm gonna get an empty SQL expression, right? Probably
Wow.
something from the mapper, but basically it returns an empty SQL expression. You can see it here, right? So this is how it works. And if I'm gonna do, I don't know, let's pick something that returns only one result. So, oh, I think I might have closed my PDP. Okay, yeah, here it is. So let's pick something else. Let's say I wanna pick this user which has only one role. So I'm gonna take his ID, right? And I'm gonna put it here, and we see we get a smaller residual, right? We don't have an OR expression. So that's gonna compile a smaller residual. And now I can take this value again and put it inside right here. And we're gonna say again these tasks. And right. So, oh, sorry, import asyncio, right?
Yeah.
And now For some reason, I'm getting something. It's probably my virtual end, but basically, you can see that now I have only um, one thing right here
So it's
instead of two,
unloaded. Yeah, it's
one
unloaded.
value.
Which is
Uh,
I think it's a it shows the
yeah,
feature really well. I must say that I believe this database work is going to make uh, it's in general it's first make permit proposal stand much bolder than any other today because today the authorization players usually choose to play in the platform level, choose to play in the database level. But with all this opening, we are going to have a much better database enforcement level results. So thanks for that, Asaf, and for the
yeah,
hard work to make it. If you want to investigate more, so we are it's on the docs and it's an early release feature, so we do not have it generally available yet, but you are welcome again to contact us in Slack, or you can try it, of course, with the SDK. It's all in the Python SDK and in the PDP. All are open source, so you can just download them and start playing with the partial evaluation. With all the honor to SQL, half of the world prefer the NoSQL. And I was very impressed by Shiva, one of the community members, who created a partial evaluation plugin for Couchbase that work actually a little different than what Asaf showed, and I'll demonstrate that soon. But first, I want to hear from Ben. I know that Couchbase has some I see that someone said that the YouTube stream is dead. Uh, yeah, let me ask Shaked what happened there.
That's probably because YouTube didn't set its authorizations with permit. That's probably the
Oh
problem.
wow. Yeah. Let me check myself what happened there. Sometimes restrings just stuff. Well, I can see everything on YouTube, so let's get back to yeah. Okay, so I can see the YouTube. Shiva and Rohan, if you see more troubles, please let us know. It's important. But I can see the YouTube working well. If anyone can see us on YouTube, please comment, and then we can know better that everything is well. Try to fix that. But anyway, let's get back to business. So talking about NoSQL and talking about Couchbase. So one of our community members, Shiva, is developed a plugin that I'm going to demonstrate soon that adding the permit features to Couchbase. But beforehand, I have a very honored guest from Couchbase today, which is who is Ben. I know Ben for many years, and I know him as one of the greatest developer educators I know. And I was really happy when he back from the Web3 landscape to the real development landscape, and now he's working at Couchbase as a developer advocate. And I know, Ben, that Couchbase already has some sort of permission model for databases. Do you want to tell us a couple of words about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, Gabriel, it's really great to be on a stream with you. I can't believe it's been this many years we've known each other, and this is the first time
Oh,
we've
yeah.
streamed together. We've been at events together, we've hung out together, we've talked about so many topics together, but now we get to stream together. Really, really excited for it. And you're streaming from a booth, which is the ultimate expression of a developer advocate work.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
at a booth and you're streaming at the same time. You are the champion of developer advocates right now. Let's just throw that out
Oh,
there. You know,
that was
the
the
par
plan.
excellence.
I need to pretend, right?
You're doing a great job pretending. What can I say?
Oh, thank you.
But first of all, yeah, so Couchbase is actually a bit more than just a NoSQL database. We really have a whole bunch of features set around being a data platform for unstructured, semi-structured, and fully structured data. All of it together. And what's really cool, one of the cool things about Couchbase, in addition, I'm going to get to authorization in just a second, is that we also offer in-memory cache, right? Because sort of the history of Couchbase is that we're both a database and an in-memory cache provider. So if you've ever been in a situation where you've used a service that starts with an R, to do in-memory cache. We don't need to mention the service name. It has maybe 5 letters and starts with an R. You don't necessarily need that data sprawl. You can also use Couchbase for both your in-memory cache and for your data needs and eventing and all those sorts of stuff. And amongst that as well is authorization and setting authorization levels through what we call our management APIs. We offer a pretty fully robust set of API endpoints in our REST API for management APIs, and it allows you to set authorization levels at either what we call the organization level, which is your entire speaking, let's say, within the context of our managed database as a service, which is called Capella. It's a totally free service, by the way, to get started and to use forever. So if you're at the managed database as a service in Capella, we offer authorization setting at the API level through at the organization level, which is your entire Capella organization, at the cluster level, which is kind of like your database level, and at the bucket level, which is sort of like at your table level. But what I'm actually really interested, Gabriel, to hear about how you and your community have integrated setting Couchbase authorizations holistically through a more integrative platform where it's not just setting it at one level and then setting another level and then setting another provider or another resource. Tomorrow at a DevOps event, I'm going to talk about using IAC tooling to manage Couchbase resources. You can manage Couchbase resources on Couchbase. You don't need to use Terraform or Pulumi to manage Couchbase. But if you are using Terraform or Pulumi, there's a lot of benefits to managing and provisioning your resources in Couchbase along the way you provision and manage your resources on other resources as well. So in the same spirit, I'm really interested to hear you talk a little bit about what this solution looks like when you're managing authorizations for your resources that are not only Couchbase but are inclusive of Couchbase. So in addition to, like, what does that look like? So can you enlighten me? Can you share with me a little bit what this looks like?
Yeah, so I'm really glad you asked that, but from two reasons. The first one, you talk about the IAC, and that's part of the announcement that we are going to have tomorrow. So thanks for asking that, but I'll not expose what we are going to announce tomorrow. But you ask a
Ooh,
great
that's exciting.
question, and
That's
actually,
a nice
when
little breadcrumb to get to the next step
yeah.
here.
Actually, the question that you are asking now, Shiva, I gotta ask that by the Couchbase team. They say, okay, we have our RBAC. Why we need another RBAC or whatever, any kind of other RBAC, of course, role-based access control, any kind of other. And I'll explain because software today, particularly and in the cloud native landscape, built from many components. If you're even just build the smallest software, you have your front end, you have your back end, and your back end probably has multiple microservices. And you have your Couchbase, and even in Couchbase, you have your in-memory cache, you have your document stores, you have everything, right? And you want to have, I mean, hypothetically, you want to have one permission model, one table that you are look at that table and understand, okay, the decisions everywhere, no matter if that will be front end, if that will be back end, if that will be on my Couchbase, or even if I have a legacy system that is still not using Couchbase, I want it to have the better permissions. But you don't want only that. You also want that the components in your system will be aware of this permissions model. And this is exactly what the direction we are going today in Permit. So you already can, you have a full functionality system that you can configure and streamline one permissions model. And no matter how fine-grained it be, Permit let you configure that. And you can also enforce that. You can enforce that in a backend, you can enforce that in a database. But our next phase in Permit is also to make others understand our permissions model. So if you're, for example, and again, I'm not exposed what we are going to do tomorrow, but let's just have it in a glance. If you're, example, configuring, if you're working like IAC, working GitOps, and you are configuring your database resources and you're configuring your web resources, you want them to know each other, what are the desired permission model, and automatically deploy and provision that through them, right? And this is why we are now announcing a lot of features that do exactly that. They're making sure that everything in your system and everything in your environment will be aware of the permission model, of the Streamlining permission model, and be able to enforce that.
And to me, that's what's really interesting, because you're taking it one step further than what we classically call the single pane of glass, right? So the single pane
Mhm.
of glass is a fantastic concept, and in practice helps tremendously. When you have one view, one eye on all of your services in some kind of dashboarding, we often call that, platform engineering, etc., right? But what you're saying, and what I'm actually really interested in, and why I'm part of this stream, it's not just because I like you, but also the idea that we can have not just a single pane of glass, but that we have the ability to orchestrate a single thread of permission orchestration. I know that's using the word orchestrate twice, and you shouldn't do that,
Yeah.
but a single thread of permission orchestration across all of your services within that single pane of glass. And I think, if
Yeah.
I'm understanding you correctly, that's one of the benefits that you're offering. So if you have a Capella database or a Couchbase server database, and you have this document store, and you're using Couchbase for your in-memory cache, and maybe you're using Couchbase as part of your like RAG application, and you have vector embeddings, and you have a vector search index, and you need to really fine-tune your RBAC in ways that make sense for not only Couchbase, but also for the other services that everything is strung together with. That's what I'm hearing you say. And to me, honestly, that's really exciting.
After this pitch, I just now considering to hire you to Permit. You could be really a great
I can't
addition,
be
a
taken. I'm
powerful
already done. It's
addition to
already
our
done.
booth. Yeah,
Even
you
this
can be a
former Web3 DevRel guy, I'm still.
yeah. So thank you for that, and that's exactly what you mean. Actually, the integration that Shiva developed is a little smaller from this amazing. When you talk about by the way, when you talk about the single pane of glass, I thought that what we need to do is not one single pane of glass, because that when it's broken, and glass are broken often, we need to build modular single panes, right? And they need to incorporate together. And we streamline it in Permit. We are streamlining it in the model, but then the enforcement can be decentralized. So you can sure you have one model and everything. But we are kind of going to be short in time, and Omer also has an exciting feature to show. So I quickly ran through what Shiva has developed, and here is he also developed a nice UI, and I really like people who also contribute UI in their application. And what you can see here is a query permission checker. So what Shiva did, and if we go, he open source that, and it's now in the permit Couchbase in this URL. And I think we'll soon adopt it into the permit. It's actually here in final. Let's take a second look for a second on the code itself. So Shiva did something similar to what Asaf did with partial evaluation, but with the ability to parse the query on the code. So instead of parsing it in the ORM or something, or in the policy decision point, he analyzed the query. And then by analyzing the query and break it to action and resources, they can also run the permit check against this query. So as you can see here, they have the bucket,
I
they
think you
have
need
the
to share your
couch.
screen, Gabriel. We're not seeing.
I'm not sharing my screen.
Then now you are.
Maybe
Look at that. No, now you're not.
I think I know what I need to do. I think I know what was my
Knowing we
problem.
need to do is the first step to fixing a problem.
Yeah. Okay. So now you probably can see the GitHub. So
Yes.
as you can see here, Shiva had a function called check query permission that is actually convert the query by using regex and lexers into a permit check function, and then you can in your application do something similar to the partial evaluation of what Asaf shows us. I think this is a great one, particularly for non-SQL database and less traditional query languages, where you probably want to validate and parse the queries to make it true. So, with the biggest announcement that we have today of the partial evaluation and the way, I think it's exciting to see also the community and the way that this actually can work with Couchbase, that just with a simple code that actually analyzes the query can return you the right result. So let's see, for example, you have built here this nice UI. So I have this query permission checker. If I'll go to permit, I can see that the permit now has a model of the, if you're familiar with Couchbase, so when you're creating a project in the Capella, which is the cloud service of Couchbase, you can also choose the sample data that they have there. So he created a policy model for the sample data of the travel. So if we're looking here, we can see, for example, that we have the travel agent, and the travel agent, they can read the airport details and the route details. What happened if we will try to run the query here? We are trying to read the airport. So the travel agent will be allowed to do that. Now let's change the permission. Let's also, let's remove them from the airport, right? So I remove the read from the travel agent. And if I'm checking the permission now, you can see that immediately it took effect and the permission is denied at this point, right? So you can actually control with permit on the what query I can run or I cannot run. Let's take another user. For example, Ryan. He has the permission of traveler and they can read the airport facilities. If we are checking the permission, we can see that they can see that. But again, the travel agent will not be able to see that as soon as we'll remove the permissions from their account. So I think this is very exciting, and you can see that in the permit Couchbase. And I think we again short in time, so I want to thanks Ben again for joining us today and do this Couchbase talk. And I really hope that with this start seeding, or we can plant a huge tree of integration between Permit and Couchbase. I really love the way Couchbase knew NoSQL and everything related to persistent. So thank you for that. Before we are moving to Omer to show us another really cool feature, or to announce another feature that's really exciting me, I want to do the Raffle on the keyboard. So I'll give you another minute while I'm briefing the permit, while I'm briefing the feature that or sorry, while I'm briefing the feature that Omer is going to show us soon. I'll give you another minute so you can go now to Luma and register. If you are watching us on on LinkedIn, or you're watching us on YouTube, make sure that you're being registered on Luma, and you can win the raffle. So the brief about Omer Talk today. So you probably know that most of the permit users are choosing Open Policy Agent to get their authorization decision. And if you're familiar with Open Policy Agent, you probably know that Open Policy Agent can hold and handle data. It has its own like memcache data available, but it's hard when it gets to a lot or significant amount of data. And in permit is something that we feel, because permit users who get comfortable with creating fine-grained authorization and don't need to waste time on writing Rigo code, actually getting very easy to write extensive authorization rules with permit. And then at some point, this data became a headache and made the policy decision being very slow. Omer are going to show us after the raffle how he solved the main problem of OPA performance with his new project. But before let's do the raffle. So I'm going here to the Luma screen, and let me take the list of the people who participate in the live stream today. Second live stream, I will go to manage and take the list of the guests who are registered. Oh, that's a nice number, 69 guests today joined the raffle. Let me open the file and copy the list of the email from the raffle of today. And remember, if you are here, just let me know that you're here. If not, we'll wait like 15, 30 seconds and continue to the new email. So I'm copying now all the emails, and let's open my beloved Raffle website. And I'm putting here the new list of the email, and let's click to spin. Are you ready for the raffle? Check it out. I need this clock that helps me with the confidence. Yeah, okay, we haven't found it. Or rocks, which I guess I pronounced correctly. If you're here, Dami, Please, please, please make sure that you are commenting no matter where you're watching us. If you're watching us on YouTube, watching us on LinkedIn, Twitter, where you are, we see your comments. So just make sure that you are actually commenting on our. Let me just stop the share screen to stop this. So, Damet, if you are here, please let us know. If not, we'll start in 10 seconds to raffle another name. They here, and I mostly pronounce right the name, Damet Kumara. I'm so happy that you won. I actually, when I saw this keyboard, I said, wow, that's 100 level more than uh, uh, what I did, what I ever seen or what I planned it will be. So I'm really happy for you for winning the keyboard. Please send me an email to gabriel@permit.io, and I'll make sure that we are sending you the keyboard to your home. So congrats for that. And be back tomorrow because we are doing a daily raffle. So and with that, I really want to give the stage to Omer to tell us about how he solved the biggest problem of performance with Open Policy.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah. So I won't take all the honor because I didn't do it myself. It's the entire Permit team. Yeah. But basically, if anyone ever used Open Policy Agent with high volume, he noticed that it doesn't know how to handle high volume. Actually, I just checked their documentation, and they mentioned that every JSON object that you store in the memory of OPA takes approximately 20 times more than if you would store it natively on your disk.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's a lot. So imagine like you having 1 million users and you want to store them as data in your policy engine, in this particular case, Open Policy Agent. So you would have to have like an infra with high memory, and sometimes this high memory also comes with performance cost of like evaluation time. So what we did, just let me share my screen. Yeah, that's the screen. Yeah, can you see my screen? Yeah. Yeah. So what we did basically is moving from storing everything on open memory, both the policy and the data in the engine, and having Opal publish data and policy updates into the agent. Instead of that, we moved to store some of the data, at least the one that has high volume, in embedded SQL IDB. Then instead of having the trouble of increasing the memory all the time and like having to manage that and all the info cost it has, instead of that, you can have the SQL IDB, have all the data you need in it, query it very fast, have indices on everything that you need, and then send only the relevant slice that you need. So for example, if you want to like ask, can Omer read this document? Okay, so you don't need the entire data that the SQL IDB has, right? Because you only need the data that is relevant to Omer in the graph. Whether it's an ABAC or a REBAC, it's always related to some sort of a graph. So we query only the relevant data. Then we evaluate the policy with this sliced data.
Can you
If we
zoom in
have,
a little the diagram, Omer? Let's just
yeah,
get a chance to see the largest we can see this. Yeah, I can.
yeah,
I mean, sorry, but because I'm the conference, I see the thing smaller. Maybe others are fine with that, but I really need a. Yeah,
yeah.
great.
So
Go ahead.
if you have here any Cedar fans, so they're familiar with this kind of usage, because Cedar basically forces you, hey, I don't store anything. If you want, you'll send me the data that I need to do the evaluation.
Yeah.
So this is very similar approach. We store the data separately to the engine because the engine is better with policy evaluation and not with going with.
Yeah, I think the main reason that this feature is super powerful for for permit users is also about consistency. As you might know, by default, Cedar and also the OSO engine, they say, okay, you have to read your writes consistency. The consistency in the system is what you read, what you write in the check. This is what we are getting decision based. OPA has like independent consistency or decide what is it. And when you're using the OPA native data storage, then you get eventual consistency that could take a lot of time. You can, as Omer mentioned, because of the performance issue, if you have a million users and you need to sync them all to OPA, it might take multiple seconds until a user will get a role assignment or something like that. And with this improvement of having an SQLite embedded near the OPA, and the OPA can synchronize directly to this SQLite database, the decisions that you are get are became really real-time decision. No matter if you are choosing the eventual consistency of permit that you are waiting for updates to be, or you wait that you are getting incorrect or not up to date decisions until the update, or you're choosing to do strong consistency and wait for the decision to come, this one can improve your decisions from seconds to literally milliseconds to do. So kudos for that, Omer, and kudos for mentioning others in the team that do that. That really
Yeah,
team vibe of Permit is always team spirit is always great. So thank you for taking care of that.
yeah, of course. I also have like a running PDP that works with this SQL IDB. Like, so I have this environment on permit. I have this super user, and I have the manager R&D and manager R&D2. So let's say the manager R&D2 has the R&D admin role. So
Omer, if you
he,
can just a little zoom in that page too, you have a very large screen and smaller. Yeah,
oh yeah,
thank
yeah. So manager R&D can do anything that admin role can on the R&D folder. So this is what the R&D admin can do, because like everything is checked. This derives also the file admin. So this is my PDP, right? So my PDP already got those updates because I checked it
it
before.
needs to be
But
like 4x larger, Omer, if you want us to see your PDP. I really jealous in your eyes and probably your age.
um, yeah, so I'm not sure how to zoom in the
Just
terminal, but
command plus will zoom in that for you.
yeah, I'm not sure that that works. Oh,
What
yeah,
terminal are you using?
yeah. I'm using Hyper. It's not the best one, but it worked. Can you see it better now?
If you can, like at least two more levels,
Is it okay now?
another two. Yeah, now we good. Now we good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So my PDP already got all the updates it needs. So I'll go to the postman and do the check. Okay.
Yeah.
So I get through because I have the role as I
Exactly.
mentioned. And if I'll go to the PDP, you'll see in the logs that it called the data manager, which is the SQL, right? It performed the auth check with the query of the user manager R&D2, can read the resource folder R&D. It has the context data, basically the slice that I talked about, right? And if I'll go to the SQLite, this is the SQLite. I mapped the volume of the Docker image to my computer. If I'll go to the SQLite, I'll make it zoom a bit. So when they query the role assignments, you can see that I have role assignments in the SQLite, right? So everything basically translates into the records in the SQLite seamlessly to the user, and that's it basically.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most improved. I think this announcement has also affect not only for people who are using OPA for authorization, it also affect people who are just generally using OPA and struggle with the time that decision could take, especially when you have a lot of data that is loaded to your OPA. It's available through the PDP. Again, it's early access currently, so please contact us if you want to use that, and we'll let you know the flag to enable the SQLite partition in your DB. With that, we are getting done with the announcement that we have today. So to wrap up, we actually after time, feel free to leave, but I'm here to wrap up the features that we had today. So we started about you can streamline decisions everywhere. You can streamline decision in the DB, you can streamline decision in the backend, you can streamline decision in the front end. And we start to show how you can do partial evaluation and you can actually run your permissions query not only on the data itself, but also on the query that you do in the DB with the partial evaluation that the staff shows us with the plugin SQL Alchemy, and with Couchbase with the community edition that we got from Shiva, and which I'm sure that we are going to make it much more mature and take it together with Couchbase to be like a streamlined permission model across everything. And then Omer show us, I think, something. Actually, when I'm thinking now, we should keep this announcement to the KubeCon in 2 weeks because I think many of the OPA users in KubeCon who came to permit booth asking us, what do you do with performance of OPA data? So now OPA data got a significant improvement with the ability to run it together with an SQL databases. So thank you for being with me today, Asaf, Omer, and Ben. Thank you for joining us, and I'll stay here for another couple of minutes. If anyone has any kind of questions or want to consider, want to ask, I'll stay here for another 3 minutes. At the time that I'm staying here, I'm reminding you that tomorrow we also have the Permit Launch Week event. You can also have a chance to win the keyboard tomorrow too. And if you register the launch week, we will be happy if you can share. There is a button of share on Twitter of your ticket after you are signing in. By the way, questions, if you have, you can just throw comments in YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever you want. Feel free to just because I know our like feature just keep you speechless. So I'm good with you just keeping yourself silent. Yeah, so tomorrow we are going to talk about a new all new way to model policies, and I'll connect it to what Ben talked before about IAC. Yes, it's related to IAC, and we are going to also tomorrow solve one of the hardest REBAC relationship-based access control Zanzibar challenges for people who are modeling permissions. I'll not tell you today what is this challenge, but if you are using Zanzibar-based DB for modeling your authorization, you probably got into that challenge, and tomorrow we are going to announce another modeling way to deal with one of the challenges in Google Zanzibar. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining us today, and see you all tomorrow.